Today, we're going to dive into one of the most practical and, honestly, urgent stories from the Buddhist tradition. It's called the Parable of the Poisoned Arrow, and it's a story that's really designed to cut through all the noise and ask us what really matters.
You know, we're always told that curiosity is a good thing, that we should ask questions. But what if some questions, even the really deep, philosophical ones, are actually a dangerous distraction? That's the challenge this story throws at us, and it all starts with a monk who had way too many questions on his mind.
All right, so our story begins with this guy, a dedicated monk who has a ton of burning questions. But all these questions are causing him some serious turmoil. So picture this. There's a monk named Māluṅkyaputta. He's supposed to be meditating, finding that inner peace, but he can't. His mind is just racing, spinning around these huge cosmic questions that his teacher, the Buddha, has flat out refused to answer.
And I mean, look at these questions. Is the universe eternal? Is it infinite? What happens when we die? These are pretty much the biggest questions you could possibly ask. Now, the Buddha had a reason for setting these aside. He called them the abhyakatam, the undeclared points. Basically, stuff that's just pure speculation. But for Māluṅkyaputta, that silence was becoming impossible to deal with.
He's getting frustrated, maybe even feeling a little disrespected. He's thinking, come on, if he knows the answers, just tell me. And if he doesn't know, he should just admit it. So he finally decides he's had enough. He's going to go confront the Buddha and demand answers, once and for all.
And this is not just some casual question. Nope. Māluṅkyaputta is about to give his teacher a serious ultimatum, one that's going to decide the entire course of his life.
So he goes right up to the Buddha and he lays it all on the line. He says, look, if you answer my questions, I'll keep being your student. But if you refuse, I'm done. I'm leaving, I'm abandoning this training, and I'm just going to go back to being a regular guy. I mean, the stakes could not be any higher.
The Buddha's response is so calm, so direct. He doesn't get mad. He just asks him, Māluṅkyaputta, did I ever make that deal with you? Did I ever promise you that if you became a monk, I'd give you all the secrets of the universe? And of course, Māluṅkyaputta has to admit, well, no, you never said that.
And here's the crucial idea. This spiritual path wasn't some kind of transaction for philosophical answers. The Buddha is about to show this monk why his priorities are so dangerously mixed up, and he does it with a story.
This is where the Buddha flips the script from just logic to this incredibly vivid story to show him the problem. So let's get right to the heart of his teaching, the parable itself.
The Buddha says, okay, imagine a man has just been shot with an arrow. And it's not just any arrow, it's covered in a thick layer of poison. His friends and family are freaking out, they rush to his side, they bring a surgeon to get it out. This is an emergency, right? The poison is spreading. But the wounded guy, he stops them. He says, whoa, hold on. Before you pull this thing out, I have a few questions. He wants to know the name of the guy who shot him, his family background, was he tall, short, where did he come from? All these totally irrelevant details. And believe me, he doesn't stop there.
He keeps going with this ridiculous list of questions. He wants a full forensic report on the weapon itself. What kind of wood was the bow? What was the bowstring made of? What kind of bird did the feathers on the arrow come from? He is demanding a complete investigation while this poison is literally coursing through his veins.
And this is the brilliant punchline from the Buddha. Before that man got a single answer to any of his questions, he would be dead. His need for answers, his speculation, would have killed him.
So what does this all mean for Māluṅkyaputta? And, well, for us? The Buddha's basically saying he doesn't teach abstract theories. He teaches a practical method for a real, urgent problem.
This takes us right back to those big, unanswered questions. That Pali word for them is abhyakatam, which means undeclared or unexplained. These are the questions the Buddha just puts to the side.
So, why won't he talk about them? His reasoning is crystal clear. Debating whether the world is eternal doesn't help you become a kinder or wiser person. It doesn't bring you peace. It does not solve the fundamental problem of human suffering. In other words, it doesn't help you pull out the arrow. So what does he declare? Well, he declares the Four Noble Truths. It's basically his whole program. Number 1, there is suffering in life. That's the poisoned arrow, right there. 2, suffering has a cause, craving and clinging. 3, it's actually possible for that suffering to end. And 4, there's a clear, practical path you can follow to end it. That's it. That's the whole ballgame.
And this brings the whole lesson right back to us. It's not about being ignorant or avoiding tough questions. It's about knowing which questions to focus on right now. The moral of the story is just so practical, so simple. When you are wounded, the only thing that makes sense is to get the arrow out and treat the wound. The diagnosis and the cure are what matter. Everything else, it's just a distraction.
The Buddha's final words on this in the sutta just nail it down. He says he teaches this stuff because it's beneficial, because it's the foundation of the path, because it leads to peace, to knowledge, to enlightenment. Bottom line, he teaches what works.
And that really leaves us with a pretty big question to think about in our own lives. We might not be asking about the fate of the universe, but we do this all the time, right? We put off dealing with our own suffering because we're waiting for the perfect moment or for a guarantee that things will work out. We delay pulling out our own poisoned arrows. Maybe it's a bad habit, a toxic relationship, an unhealthy way of thinking. So the parable asks us, are you focusing on getting the arrow out, or are you just busy analyzing the feathers?